Well, hello everybody. Jake here with you for a brand new build series here on the channel. This is going to be a different type of build this time. I've decided to take a break from building the Star Trek stuff on my YouTube channel. There's been plenty of that seen online. I've done quite a bit of it, so we're going to take a break from that for a while, guys, and try something different on the channel. We're going to be building the this is going to be the 1955 Chevy. It's going to be the Coca-Cola version, but we're going to be painting it. We're going to be painting it that red. And this is quite a nice model. This is the Chevrolet Cameo. So it's a very nice kit, very well thought out. You can see it's got very nice detail here for the grills, and I mean just a really nice model here. And so from what you see here, we have I have gone through and washed all my parts now, and I've gone through and done my adhesion promoter, let that sit, and I put a coat of primer on it. So we're going to let this dry for a while and come back later, and I'm going to start laying on our paint for our red, and we're going to be using the let's see if it'll focus on me, the dark red from Anita's Craft Acrylic, and we're going to be using just our regular old airbrush just to paint this on. And we're going to be going through there and showing you, you know, we're going to be going through here and showing you, you know, what's going on with it. So we'll be back after a while, guys, and we'll get set up for that a little bit later after we'll let this dry for a couple hours and set up and cure really nice and hard. That way we don't have any problems with it. And what I did is I used this for those new to the channel. I use pretty much for all my builds, I use the Duplicolor plastic adhesion promoter, and then followed by the Duplicolor primer. This stuff works really well. It bonds well to the plastic. We have no problems. And this adhesion promoter, for those of you who are new to the channel, and for those who, you know, have been modeling for a while, you'll know what this is about. This plastic adhesion promoter allows the paint to stick to the model, and I use that adhesion promoter for all my builds, not just the Star Trek or any of the sci-fi or any airplane. I use it for all of them, and it works really well, and it really helps grab that paint and allows it to stick. So, but we're gonna let this dry, and we'll start doing some work on it a little bit later this evening. So we'll be back after a while, guys, so stay tuned. Okay, guys, here we are. Welcome back. Now we're set up at the bench here. Now everything here has been, you know, primed like we talked about earlier, and this is what we're going to be working on for this YouTube series. Is the 1955 Chevy Cameo pickup by AMT. It's a very well thought out truck. It has a lot of good details on it, and we are going to be painting this paint scheme on it. And so before we start painting, I'm going to kind of take you through and show you what I do, or how I you know, prime, you know, get the paint and everything ready. This is what I'm going to be using for the, this is what I'm going to be using for the base coat, is the Anita's all-purpose acrylic craft acrylic paint, and this is the dark red. And so what I'm going to do is, while that's finishing drying up, I had to go back through and do some touch up on my prime, you know, my truck. I had to go back through and retouch up some priming, you know, areas that got missed with the primer. So while we're letting that set up for just a minute, we're going to go through and show you how I mix up my paint. So we're going to squeeze, you know, a good amount into one of these little cups that you can get pretty cheap at a dollar store. So we're going to put in about that much into the bottom, and then we're going to take some water and put in there. And yeah, it's going to look weird a little bit, but it'll start mixing up. And I went out and bought one of these little Badger airbrush airbrush company paint mixers, and man, it's well worth it. So we're gonna start mixing it up. Just gonna set it down in there, and basically with this type of paint, you're gonna want it to be basically the consistency of milk. So you don't want it too thick. If you get it too thick, it ain't gonna go through your airbrush even, easily, and it's gonna come out, kind of splotchy. I'm just mixing it up here. Okay. Still a little runny, or still a little thick, so we're going to add just a little bit more water. And always, guys, make sure that when you mix up this paint, make sure you make enough to do the whole model at once in the same batch, because you never know how it's going to turn out. It could be a little bit different, especially if you're going to mix paints. You always want to make sure you have enough to make a big batch to do the whole ship. So just a rule of thumb. Alright, that looks pretty good there. So alright, so we're going to set that off to the side, and now I'm going to be using my Iwata Neo. Now I have two different airbrushes. I have the Iwata Neo and I have my Iwata Eclipse. Now the Neo is a good brush for beginners to work with, because it is a dual action airbrush here. So basically with this, is what I mean by dual is you push down to get the air, and then you pull back to get the amount of paint coming out. So, but with this one, the spray is a little wider velocity here than the Neo. The Eclipse has more of a finer grade spray, but this Neo has a bigger coverage surface. So that way, when you get, when you're doing big sections like the cab of this truck here, or big starships and stuff like that, it'll cover very well. Now at first with this acrylic paint, it's gonna be splotchy, and but that's okay. It'll be all right. So we're gonna go ahead and pour this in. All right, and I'm gonna give it a little test spray here, and I'm gonna also be using my heat gun to dry this as well. So we're gonna give this a test spray. All right, so that's a good spray there. So we're just gonna go ahead and let me get my hood into shot there. Just kind of give it nice and easy coats. Now, like I said, it's going to look funny at first, so we're going to spray and then let it dry. The thing with this craft acrylic paint, guys, is you don't want to spray heavy coats on here, or else you're never going to get it to dry, and it won't dry right. And if you put tape on it, it's going to not stick. Alright, now with this, you'll also be able to tell when it's drying, because you'll start seeing it evaporate. So we're going to come over here and get this little area here, and we're going to spray again. Alright, yeah, it's turning out nicely. And so we're just going to keep doing this until it's covered completely. And like I said, it will look funny at first until you get it, until you get the whole thing covered with the right amount and the right color. So after we get this done, after we're going to let this dry, and then we're going to move on to a different part, so we don't bend our, warp our pieces. Here's the side panel, so we're going to spray these on. Alright, I'm going to dry these. And the thing too about these heat guns, guys, for those that are seasoned who know how to do this, it's fine. But if you're just starting out, it's good to get probably start out with a hair dryer, so you don't bend the, warp the plastic. So Basically, you just want to keep it on a low heat and keep it moving. And once you start seeing the shine evaporate off of it, you know it's starting to dry. So, alright, so now we're going to spray some more on. And with these guys, remember to keep your brushes back far enough, because if you get it too close, you're going to have it where it spreads, so you don't want that. And mess up your paint job. Alright. So we'll dry this real quick with the heat gun. And then while that's setting up, and the thing too, guys, is you don't want to keep this heat gun on it constantly, especially with thin plastic, because it will warp. Alright, we'll put this aside. And now we're going to do the cab of our truck. So make sure y'all are in shot there. There we go. So now we're just gonna spray. Let me get my light over here into a better. So just gonna spray it on until we get nice even coverage. And we're out. So let me add a little more. Alright. Thing is, guys, you don't want to glob it on too thick. Alright, I'm going to dry this. I'll put my airbrush down for a minute. And I'm going to dry this. Keep it moving. And remember, guys, again, keeping your heat gun quite a ways back so it doesn't melt the plastic, because these heat guns, I've talked about it in the past, and so has, you know, several other people, but these heat guns, the heat guns put out more heat, less volume, a lot less air volume. Hair dryers will put out more air volume than heat, so it'll dry it faster with a hair dryer, especially with craft acrylic paints. Alright, so we can see it starting to get dry here, so one more round here. Alright. Go another round here. Alright. And we're going to dry this. Just keep it moving, guys. Don't hold it steady. And again, once you start seeing the paint starting to get dull, it's when you know it's starting to dry. So we'll get this drying again, and we'll go back to our other parts. Alright, so we'll set this aside and come back to our hood. So we'll give this another coat. Alright, we'll get this drying. And the thing too is, guys, with this craft acrylic paint, you don't want to rush it. That is the one thing that you do not want to do, is you don't want to rush this paint. It can cause problems. It can, if you put too much on there, it can cause your paint to splatter and separate, and you have a lot of issues. So we'll set that aside, and we'll go back to our sides again. Make sure y'all are in. Make sure y'all are in shot here. Let me readjust the camera to where y'all have a better shot there. There we go. Alright, flip this around. Trick is with this stuff, guys, is light coats. Alright, so we're going to let that dry for just a second. We'll come back to our cab, and let me widen up just a little bit here in the frame. So alright, so we'll dry. We can see it's still got a few little wet spots. And the one thing about this craft acrylic paint, guys, is like Boyd said, that if you know, you mess up on it, or something happens to it, it's okay. You can just wipe it off with you know, alcohol swabs, and you know, alcohol and water. So kind of flip this over here to get this drying. And it's always good to check and make sure that you're getting full coverage here on everything. And I see a few little spots here that we're going to have to work on. Matter of fact, I'm going to change out from my heat gun to my hair dryer. Here, it'll dry a whole lot faster. Alright. There we go. This way, again, guys, the hair dryer will put out more volume of air than the heat gun. With the hair dryer, you can hold it a little bit longer on the plastic so it doesn't warp it. Alright, so we'll hit it a couple more times here. Making sure we hit it from every angle to get... And we're out, so I have to add just a little more. Alright. Alright. Let me get y'all back in shot here, guys. I'm sorry. Making sure we get this from every angle. So I think we got that pretty well covered there. So we'll dry this real quick, give it a quick dry. And then we'll go back. It's just to get the amount of paint desired, the color. You know, this stuff is, you know, you can mix it with other paint, so if you want to lighten it up, you can put a little bit of white in there. Or if you want to darken it up, you know, just depends on what you want. Again, guys, making sure you keep the plastic, you know, the heat moving. I can see we have just a little bit of white right up in here. But where are you? Just right up in here, so we're going to need to cover that real quick. And then we'll go back to give it one more coat here. And then we'll let it dry. Alright, so we'll let that dry, and we'll go back to our hood. Give that another good coat and dry that. So you can see this process is rather simple, guys. It's very you know, time consuming as well, but it's simple but time consuming. Let that dry, and then we'll go back to our side panels, and we'll be through for the night. You know, we'll let it dry, and then in the next video we'll come back in and have a little more detail work done. We'll do some detail, you know, get into building the motor, and because the motor actually the instructions actually call for the the motor to be red. So I'll dry this. And two, guys, you want to make sure you keep checking to match. You know, make sure you're getting enough the proper color match up for your paint on here. Making sure, again, making sure you have the same amount of coats on them as you did, you know, with everything else. That way, you're not going to have a off color, off shade. So we can, I have just a little bit here that got missed there, and then along that rail. Alright. Let this, use the heat gun on this. And sometimes, don't worry if you have splotches that come onto this with this acrylic paint. Don't worry, it'll dry. You won't, after it's dry, you won't even notice it's there. That's the good thing about this. It's not like the Tamiya or Testors. This will dry completely smooth. And tomorrow I'll be able to go through and put my clear coat on top of this. Now I'm not going to worry about painting the inside because there are panels that go here, and those are going to be painted a different color. So, all right, so let's check our color here. So we're looking pretty good there, and then we're looking pretty good for the hood. So dry this a little more. It'll turn out really nice, guys. And I haven't quite decided yet if I'm going to do a little weathering on this or not, you know, because back in the day they didn't have a whole lot of country stores and stuff like that. They had dirt roads and stuff like that, so I may add a little bit of weathering to it, you know, kind of give it that dirt road look. Okay, guys, well, there it is. The first step here on this build. And so I'll let this dry overnight, and tomorrow I'll go through and put my gloss coat, my top coat on here to protect the paint, because if you put any kind, even though that it's dry, being that this is acrylic paint, it will you could reactivate it if with other types of paints and stuff like that. So you need to let this dry and then put a sealer over top of it. That way it will seal it in and you won't have any issues with it. So we'll let this dry overnight, and we'll tomorrow or later this week I'll go back through and do a little bit more on it, and we'll go in on the next video. You see, we'll have this clear coated, and we'll get into some of the detail work of the truck, building a little bit of the motor and getting it all prepped and stuff. Now I believe the motor, the motor calls for it to be red, so we'll paint that red, and I'll get that built, and then we'll go from there. Get that together and painted, and then again I'll show you how to do some of that stuff like that on there. So, but again, guys, I wanted to take a little bit of break, do something different on the channel here. To kind of break things up here. I'm not going to quit doing Star Trek stuff on here. If somebody has something that they want built on here, I will do it, but I just wanted to kind of take a quick breather from this, from the Star Trek thing. So I will eventually be building a 350 Katinga that I'm going to be working on, and the Revell 1/600 scale Enterprise, the TOS. We'll be building that one on YouTube. So, but until then, guys, this is just just a little bit breather and something different to kind of keep things popping here. So, but I do want to say thanks to everybody that's on the channel. We're at 342 subscribers now, and we are almost to 15,000 views, guys. So that lets me know that I am doing something semi-right, so to help you guys out. So, but until then, guys, we'll be back in the next couple of days for another video on this. We'll do a little bit more work on it, do some detail painting and stuff like that, and go from there. So until then, guys, take care, stay safe, and happy modeling, everybody.